Hi, I'm Luke Zipp from Crocker Farm Auction, and I'm here to talk about our fall 2023 Stoneware and Redware auction. We have an incredible auction for you guys, full of just incredible new discoveries, fresh discoveries, as well as major examples that have been off the market for a generation. So I just want to take a chance, if you guys can't come to our gallery, to just walk around. First, up front, our auction bidding begins, or actually has already begun, on October 31st, and then it runs until Friday, November 10th. And then items under $5,000 close in the evening of November 10th. And then items, once they reach $5,000, they go to a phone bid session with the top 4 bidders on November 11th. Also, I'm going to be moving very quickly. Please understand that we have multiple photos and condition reports and histories on every item in the sale on www.crockerfarm.com for our catalog. But this is just giving you a sense of the items in the sale, the scale, the size, and just a fun opportunity if you can't make it here. But starting out is this example, which, guys, we've been doing this auction for almost 20 years, and then I grew up around stoneware, so 40 years of stoneware. It takes a lot to just blow my mind, and this piece did just that. When we got an email with this piece in July of 2023, it was a new discovery discovered on the eastern shore of Maryland. Honestly, it affected my sleep for days until we got it in hand. And then once we got it in hand, it was just incredible to study. This was made by Henry Harrison Remy, or Henry Remy Jr. in Philadelphia. Right here at the spigot, it says the words Philadelphia and then Roman numerals, which date it to 1828. Now, it is the largest stoneware water cooler that we know of made in the eastern United States. It's 20 gallons in capacity. I think it's 32 inches tall. I'm a large man. If I put someone like my wife or mother next to it, I think you'd be even more floored with the size of it. But really, pictures don't do this piece justice. It was made to command attention. It was made maybe to hold a lot of liquid, but I think more than that, to showcase Henry Harrison Remy's skill. Now, Remy was of the Remy family of potters that began in New York City in the 1720s in colonial America. His father, at the start of the War of 1812, went from Manhattan to Baltimore City and started really this style of mid-Atlantic stoneware right at the start of the War of 1812. He came of age in Baltimore. At the age of 18 is when he arrived, and then in 1812, and then 15 years later, so he was in his early 30s, he went to Philadelphia really to take Philadelphia stoneware production to another level. So this example was made a year, probably less than a year after his arrival in Philadelphia, and he's really showcasing his skill as a potter. And you can see this. I mean, it's such an artistic decoration. You see the incised floral and bird motif, which typify the best examples of Henry Remy Sr. and Jr.'s work. But it's extreme. I mean, he's using the whole canvas of this clay to showcase this design. There's a much smaller water cooler. I believe it's maybe about 4 gallons in capacity at the Philadelphia Museum of Art that relates to this object. But then this is so grand in its scale. So not just the incredible incised decoration, both up the front and around the top. And then even you have, it's like a flower pot at the spigot with this flowering motif, almost like a tree of life with birds nesting on its branches. You have these awesome loop handles, which relate to, if you remember, the Eagle cooler we sold back in 2015, which set a record at the time, which Remy's father did. But then there's a floral motif on the back, which covers the whole back and then around the base. It's such an incredible example, both at showcasing Remy's skill as a potter, but then also showing what he made right at the start of his work in Philadelphia. He potted there so long, and I've researched the Remys for decades now. I didn't know quite what was their first work there, so he was actually in partnership with his brother-in-law during this time, right when he began. They bought Branch Green's pottery, and now we know what they were making in the late 1820s in Philadelphia. So I want to show you, if you can't come down here, we have over 500 lots of stoneware and redware in this sale. And honestly, it is, if you love stoneware and redware, it really is sensory overload. You can show, we have shelves upon shelves of stoneware and redware from both spanning from the 18th century to the late 19th century, and then also spanning region, South, Mid-Atlantic, North, Midwest. Beautiful examples. Really, we do have something, I believe, for anybody's taste or budget. Tons of museum quality examples, but also tons of just great examples of American stoneware if you're a collector. Our gallery is an 1840s barn in northern Baltimore County horse country, and stoneware feels really at home here. Here we have a few highlights. This is an awesome Buffalo, New York crock with bird decoration by C.W. Braun. It's beautiful folk art, slip trail design, wonderfully executed. And then moving further east in New York, in Utica, this is the white pottery, classic what they call paddle-tail bird, that really bold, white really got really bold cobalt oxide on this churn. This example is from Maine, and honestly, it's one of the nicest examples of Maine stoneware that we've ever come across. Extremely fine in size decoration, almost reminiscent of the work of Norton, of Julius Norton in Bennington, Vermont. We have not only the bird, but then cross-hatching in its wing, and then these details, and even both impressed and in size decoration, these impressed circles in that flower head. This is R. Thompson and Company, Gardner, Maine, early Maine example. This is Thomas Comerall stoneware jug, and most of you are probably familiar with the research that my brother Brant has done in the book that came out about a year ago. This is a nice jug by him, made really at his most prolific period with his, as I say, impressed clamshell or federal drapes done twice. But we have some great examples of Thomas Comerall stoneware in this sale. And here's two nice northern figural examples. This from Fort Edward, New York with a reclining deer, and then this with the double parrot, which is rare for the F.B. Norton company, but two nice, showy 6-gallon crocks. But let's go into the other room. So if you haven't been here, in this room we have our showcases and then a lot of our great highlights. So this is one of my favorite pieces that is in this sale and really a new discovery. And again, I talked about the story of Thomas Comerall, which honestly, as collectors of stoneware, we aren't just engaging with beautiful objects, but stories as well. So Comerall stoneware was very sought after, just as beautiful objects with no real story attached to it. Brant was able to graft that story into then this body of work from early Manhattan of Thomas Comerall, who, if you aren't familiar, he was born into slavery. He was enslaved by prolific stoneware potters in colonial New York City. He gained his freedom, and then he learned the art and mystery of stoneware production, and eventually by, in the fledgling days of American independence, he was setting out in his own independence as a business owner. So this piece represents Thomas Comerall, this man who was a very skilled potter, but also a very skilled businessman. He opened a pottery on Corlier's Hook in Manhattan, and this is one of a very small body of work that we know was made during the first period of Thomas Commerall's ownership. Brandt dates these examples. So you have this maker stamp, Corlear's hook with an extra E, C-O-E-R. The jug I showed you in the other room just had the more typical stamp, C-O-R, C-O-E-R-L-E-A-R-S, hook. And these examples, like Brandt says, are the ones that we know Commerall threw and decorated on his own. He embraced mass production and really almost a democratization of labor later on, and very quickly at the early 19th century. But these examples are hand thrown like all his examples, but then hand decorated. So this piece, we sold a jar that was the cover of Brandt's book last auction. And then this piece is a new discovery that relates. It's probably the closest analog to that jar that we sold. And it's absolutely incredible. So not only is the stamp like that piece on the rim, but then it has two unique hand and size decorations. So this decoration, it almost relates to the clamshell of his later production that was in press, but this is an incised foliate decoration on this one side. And we have never seen this on a Commerall example. But then on the other side, it's another hand incised decoration that relates to the very small body of work of early Corlear's hook examples. So again, impressed at the top and York, so that the full maker's stamp, which was really one of the earliest, if not the earliest, commonly used maker's stamps in American stoneware production, the Corlear's hook and York for Thomas Commerall. But just an incredible example made by an incredible man. And this is another new discovery of David Drake work. And you all are also probably familiar with the story of David Drake. Unfortunately, like Thomas Commerall, he was born into slavery. Unlike Thomas Commerall, he never gained his freedom until the end of the Civil War. And so he worked as part of a plantation economy in Edgefield, South Carolina, making stoneware for his owner, his enslaver, Lewis Miles. But he's a man who was born into an institution that sought to rob him of individual identity, and through artistic genius and artistic expression, he transcended that institution and made incredibly skilled pots, but also incredibly beautiful pots. And then also, because of his notoriety, he gained the autonomy to actually sign his name. He learned how to read and write as an enslaved individual, which was illegal in South Carolina. And there's a body of work where he actually signed his name. So this shows his very bold signature, Dave, for David Drake. And then the date, December 4th, 1856, and LM for Lewis Miles, who was his enslaver. And then the 6 punctates, as they say, for gallon capacity, almost like tally marks to count the gallons, and then 2 hash marks. But it has a beautiful, just lively glaze to it. If you can see, the glaze runs, and then the unglazed space with the glaze running into it. Just a piece that is full of life, and like I said, a new discovery in North Carolina of Dave's work. There's been a lot of his work documented, and this was an unknown example, which is awesome. And moving along quickly, this is the rarest of Manhattan maker stamps. So Clarkson Crolius was definitely the most successful Manhattan stoneware potter. He operated 2 potteries in New York, one on Pot Baker's Hill and then one on Bayard Street, which I'm probably mispronouncing. And so there's only, I think I know of 3 examples. Brandt might be able to tell me specifically how many are known, but it's an extremely rare maker stamp. William Ketchum in his research was able to document the first time Clarkson Crolius is listed as owner of the Bayard Street pottery. I believe it was 1814. But based on a comparison to other Crolius works and just Manhattan stoneware in general, Brandt postulates, and I believe he's 100% correct, that this is an earlier example, an earlier maker's stamp, probably late 18th century, and probably the first Clarkson Crolius shop that he owned on his own. But it's just beautifully thrown example, beautiful clay, beautiful cobalt highlights, and then beautiful incised decoration on the reverse. Next to it, we have another great Thomas Comerall jug, and this fits into a body of work of his earlier jugs, again with the earlier COER stamp for Corlier's hook, that are just beautifully bulbous, and then this wonderful tooled spout with stepped tooled spout, which relates to, we sold a 4-gallon jug, which is the best Comerall jug in existence and was the cornerstone of the 2 exhibitions I mentioned. That is of this same form, and then this would fit kind of in that series. But it shows a transition for Thomas Comerall, that he's begun employing impressed design rather than hand-incised design. But again, this is another wonderful new discovery. And then interestingly enough, we move from Manhattan stoneware to really Manhattan-inspired stoneware, but made far afield. So this is one of the most important examples of North Carolina stoneware. It's the earliest North Carolina stoneware maker's stamp for Gurdon, Robbins and Company in Fayetteville, North Carolina. It dates to about 1810. So there are, I believe, only 4 examples known that are either marked Gurdon, Robbins and Company or Gurdon, Robbins. So the N Company, he was partnered with a man, I believe Timothy Savage. I might be forgetting the first name. Gurdon Robbins was a merchant, and he employed Edward Webster, who came from Hartford, Connecticut, and brought the stoneware skill down to North Carolina. The first time somebody made stoneware in the state was at this Gurdon, Robbins and Company pottery. And it's an extremely important jug and a document of Southern manufacture that survives in really wonderful condition as well, from a very important collection. But then moving on, I'm going to back up so we can get some light on it. We have 5 spectacular examples of Northern stoneware. And Brant, let's actually start in the middle. So this is a 5-gallon crock by F. Stetson-Meyer and Company, made in Rochester, New York. Now, the reason why I wanted to start here is not only is it this would be a cornerstone example for any collection. Rochester, New York. So if you love the northern figural decoration with that whitish clay, even from going down to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, up to Bennington, Vermont, are places really typical of that. Whitish clay, and then figural decoration, birds, animals, florals, often slip trailed. That began in Rochester, New York, at the pottery of N. Clark and Company, about 1840. John Berger was really the genius who kickstarted that artistry in clay. But in that atmosphere, then is where all these other pieces, the inspiration came from. And so this piece was made in Rochester, New York, at the very important pottery of Frederick Stetson-Meyer, about 1855. And it is arguably the best example. So Stetson-Meyer stoneware is very sought after in general. This is arguably the best example of Stetson-Meyer stoneware known. It just has, it's art, it's a work of art. It's a masterpiece, slip trailed on here. The detail of this deer, both with spots fur detail, the detail of the trees surrounding him. It survives in remarkable condition, and I really can't speak enough of the importance of this object. It's the first time it's been on the market in generations, and it's a extremely rare opportunity to buy one of the cornerstone deer crocs in existence. Next to it is a Stetson-Meyer example, another really cornerstone Rochester piece. F. Stetson-Meyer and Company, Rochester, New York, with a fox decoration. And what's cool about stoneware is often, the folk art appeal of it is you have, figural decoration where you have a fox with a sunflower next to it that is larger in size than the fox itself. But it's very rare to find a piece of stoneware, American stoneware, with fox decoration, and then executed so incredibly well. And again, in incredible condition. This is also an extremely rare opportunity to add such an important, beautiful example to your stoneware collection. Here we also have 3 great examples of Norton pottery. The 2 on the ends of J&E Norton, and then the chickens E and LP Norton. But Norton took that Rochester style of stoneware and arguably became the most successful at employing it, this northern figural decoration. We have 3 pieces that are all will all be worthy of the best collections. On the left, we have incredible bird decoration with spotted tail. I felt like it was a peacock decoration. Extremely bold cobalt oxide decoration, extremely well executed, and honestly perfection for what it is. Then moving down, we have an incredible pecking chicken by E and LP Norton on a 2-gallon jug. There's a lot of chicken pecking corn decorations from New York State. The E and LP Norton pecking chickens are the best pecking chicken decorations known, with that just aggressive decoration, the spotted wing, and then all of the feathering detail. And then next to it is a great Norton reclining deer on a 4-gallon jar. Just very well executed for what it is. Over here we have 2 really nice Western Pennsylvania, Greensboro, Pennsylvania, possibly New Geneva for this jar. Jars with brushed floral decoration. This one is signed by Buffner, A&W Buffner, Greensboro, Pennsylvania. It was a very rare mark. You just see beautiful brushed floral decoration. And kind of a, turning the page, we got a very important collection of Southern folk pottery, the Mullis collection, which really tells the story of this 20th century Southern folk pottery in one collection. And honestly, the story, so if you guys wonder like what we sell a lot of like early 19th century Edgefield, South Carolina, especially face vessels. And you wonder what the connection is between them and then the 20th century, the famous linear metters and Burrow and Craig and Cheever metters and the like. So this collection kind of tells that story of how that gap was bridged. So it really begins with this jug. This was made in 1967. And there's a man named Cheever Metters who was a potter of the old school tradition of in Cleveland, Georgia, making just utilitarian vessels. We have a churn by him over, which I'll show you in a little bit. But there wasn't a whole lot different between his production and what had been made in the 19th century. So in 1967, he was actually invited to make some vessels for Folklife Festival at the Smithsonian institution in Washington, D.C., and he really embraced that moment. And so this jug was actually made by Cheever and his son Lanier, who really is the one who sprung to fame after that Folklife Festival. It's just incredible with the not only hand modeled features, but then the rock teeth and rock eyes, which are typical of the early Cheever Metters pieces. It says on the bottom, Metters, Georgia, 7/3/67 to commemorate that event. So just moving quickly, then after that fame, really that whole region in Georgia, but the Metters family gained in notoriety and in a little bit in financial success. So this collection almost represents a family tree of Metters potters. So you have the mother and father. This is actually a 1950s Airy Metters face jug. So made by a woman potter, extremely important object. So you have Airy and Cheever Metters. And then here's an early Lanier Metters without ears. And then that's the more typical kind of, once he was more successful, he made jugs like this. That's Lanier as well. Then you even have his siblings got into the act. So you have John, you have Reggie, and then you have Edwin. He's the cobalt. And so he also made that rooster. Reggie also made figural objects. So we have a boar, we have a chicken, a double-headed chicken, we have an elephant by Reggie. And then we have later Metters family members. But then we also have, so in North Carolina, really the two famous later 20th century face jug makers were Burl and Craig and Lanier Metters. Well, Burl and Craig owes his success to Harvey Reinhardt. So Harvey Reinhardt trained Burl and Craig in Vail, North Carolina. And this is a very rare, very, very fine Harvey Reinhardt face jug. Then over there we have an incredible large size Burl and Craig face jug. But then we also have not just the early 20th century folk pottery, but then we have great examples by the people that they influenced as well. So not only in this case, but then moving along, here's this. It's the largest Burl and Craig face jug that we have handled and that I have seen. So we have Burl and Craig. Then we have people who then later took their influence and made an art out of it. So Clint Alderman is extremely skilled, but then takes his influence from Burl and Craig, you can see very strongly, and other antecedents as well. This is a great double-faced candelabra. So half of the Mullis pieces were on loan to Colonial Williamsburg. This piece and a few others, including this Rex Hogan rooster, which is absolutely incredible, were actually exhibited at Colonial Williamsburg. So this is a Clint Alderman bust of Teddy Roosevelt. This is a Cheever Metters and Lanier Metters churn, Melvin Crocker examples. It's just an incredible story being told in objects. Now moving along in the cases, so I want to talk about this example first. This was recently discovered. It's in Alamance County, Lloyd Albright School sugar jar. I'm going to take this piece out. Most I'm going to leave in, but I do want to take this out. This was recently discovered. It was a North Carolina family who had moved out to Colorado. So honestly, the Redware jars made in Alamance County in the late 18th century with slip decoration, I would argue are the finest examples of American Redware jars ever produced. I mean, it's extremely advanced, both in conception and execution. Beautiful 3-color slip decoration, surviving in immaculate condition. It really is an absolute treasure, offered here for the first time for public sale. Just moving along, showing a few pieces of redware. We have great examples also of North Carolina of Moravian figural redware. So the Moravians made objects, but the potters, Rudolf Christ most notably, made figural redware to support their mission. We have 3 that all came from the same collection, important collection. Squirrel and the fish are perhaps the most famous. This is it's rare to have the fish just in manganese. Then we have squirrel in Wielden, and then a chicken caster, and it's rare to have that in a Wielden glaze. Beautiful example, but showing other redware. So this platter is incredible, absolutely incredible. Philadelphia, 18th century almost certainly, based on just the number of slipped lines. So it looked like that slip cup had 8 chambers, which as they moved later on in their production in Philadelphia and elsewhere, they kind of scrimped on the amount of slip. But this is just over the top, both in the amount of yellow slip, but then also copper oxide, the green on it. It's again in incredible condition. It's one of the finest pieces of Philadelphia redware that we have handled. It's just absolutely incredible. Next to it is example probably from Norwalk, a redware charger, which is beautiful. Up top we have early Manhattan stoneware, but then also we have this mug. So first of all, stoneware mugs in general are extremely rare, but early American stoneware mugs, you can see it's very German inspired by Westerwald. Has this watch spring, then the date 1787, then the watch spring. We attribute it to Abraham Mead of Greenwich, Connecticut. And what's so cool is, honestly, again, the story of American stoneware, more than just the beauty of the objects, is what gravitates me to it. So at the start, 1787 for you history buffs, is when the American Constitution was ratified. But also it was when you have people like Abraham Mead, who grew up making pottery in colonial America, which they were just providing kind of cheap local goods. All of a sudden, at American independence, they were able to make a name for themselves and to kickstart American industry. So this man, he trained in New Jersey, brought that style to Greenwich, Connecticut, and made vessels like this. But it's an absolutely incredibly important, over-the-top, early American example of stoneware. Then the Manhattan pieces. So we have a great Crolius jar on the one side. J. Remy, who is the uncle of, so it's John Remy III. He's the uncle of Henry Harrison Remy, who made the crazy cooler in the other room. This is a piece he made in Manhattan. This picture, again, awesome new discovery. From decoration, Brandt firmly attributes it to Thomas Comerall and postulates it might be an example of Thomas Comerall's training in Manhattan at the Crolius pottery, rather than when he was working on his own. It's beautiful clay, beautiful crisp cobalt, just a wonderful example. And pictures were very rare in in 18th century Manhattan, so it's just a very rare form as well. It's awesome. These two Simeon Bray snake jugs in the Anna pottery style. You have the drunkard man trapped by his own vices in the jug, but then what's awesome about this has a turtle, snake, lizard, and a swan below him, and this rustic combing. Just an awesome example. This one as well is actually, has his initials SLB 1885. Turtle, snakes, man trapped. This is an important early Alabama piece with applied floral and foliate decoration, spurred handle. Great new discovery there. Move fairly quickly here. So great North Carolina stoneware right here. This little jar was made by Chester Webster. I mentioned Edward earlier. Chester was his brother. Great early toy that he actually made for the kids of neighboring potters. This is an inkwell with an important, especially for the South, date of 1861. I mentioned Loy family with the sugar jar. This is a later generation, Mebane Loy, North Carolina, 1871. It's a very rare Alamance piece, Alamance County G.F. Wolf. We have great Redware here. Great Pennsylvania Redware lamb. We have a Redware dog. These are awesome Redware toys. This is actually Stoneware, probably Ohio, but in the same style. Dog there. And then moving along, figure decorations. Figural decorations here. Then these are all stoneware examples. Ohio, Donahoe from Parkersburg, West Virginia. Donahoe from Parkersburg, West Virginia. And then this is another dog here. A very rare stoneware figurals. And honestly, some of the most elaborate stoneware figural dogs and lions that we've handled. Up top, these are great. Look at these very fine pieces. Crimped rim, little flower pots from Western Pennsylvania with initials here. Here, so fine. Another face jug. Here we have an awesome selection of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania stoneware in this sale. So this is, if you guys know Central Pennsylvania stoneware, you know the Man in the Moon decoration. Here's a batter pail, the only one known, with 4 Man in the Moon decorations. Really cool piece. Next to it, a 1-gallon jar, bird decoration, very, very fine. And then a jug with slip-trailed floral decoration. Then other great examples. Here we have great canning jars. So first let's start with Greensboro, Pennsylvania. People love these fruit jars, and this one is such a crisp example. Hamilton Jones Star Pottery. Then apple. Then we have Western Pennsylvania, West Brownsville with cherry decoration and stripes. Then we have a Greensboro piece with stars. And then upside down, Hamilton and Jones. People talk about end of day pieces. I think maybe that was an end of day, very tired piece. This bowl, thistle decoration, Western Pennsylvania. And we were consigned an awesome collection from West Virginia. So we have a number of very important Ravenswood advertising pieces. Look at this great canning jar. Such great small size. Another one. But this, so the AP Donahoe pottery in Parkersburg, very important pottery. Look at this miniature jar. S.J. Thompson, Parkersburg, West Virginia, August 19th, 1882. That's why I love doing these videos, is to show you the scale, because I don't think this would really communicate in the pictures as well. This, missing some parts, but this was a Remy, probably made at the same period as the water cooler in there. Remy Philadelphia coffee pot. I mean, it's awesome when potters, and the Remys are geniuses, take more kind of a fine form and put it in stoneware. Great. Later, this is Richard Remy, so Henry Harrison's son. Presentation picture, so crisp, beautiful script, just a great Philadelphia picture. Have Hague chick waterer, great bank with initials on the bottom. Great selection of John Bell stoneware in this sale. Very fine pitcher, buttercrock with lid, both decorated. Look how small that one is. Mug, which I told you how rare stoneware mugs are. Decorated handle even. Very, very fine. All of these in great condition. Really nice Philadelphia pitcher. And water cooler down there. And moving along to Redware. Great Shenandoah Valley Redware. Wall pocket in awesome condition. Usually they aren't. Usually they have some damage because it's very fine with that beak. Nice multi-glaze. Egg cup. Great selection here. John Bell lidded ale mug, and then early Bell lidded jar with the lid also marked there. And then Virginia stoneware. Look at this miniature pitcher from Strasbourg. It's literally perfect size. Fits right in your hand. Extremely rare. So that's Martine J. Ducey from Petersburg. This is John Walker, Washington, D.C. I believe the only John Walker pitcher. Extremely rare Washington, D.C. piece of Washington, D.C. stoneware made in our nation's capital. Great slip trail Milburn jar. Great W.H. LeHue 1 gallon pitcher. I wanted to show you this piece. It's almost a Staffordshire form. It's made for Dr. J.D. Logan in Baltimore, 1876. It's a presentation piece for hot whiskey punch. That would be, I think that would get Dr. J.D. Logan a little intoxicated if he consumed this whole thing. But the cool part of it is, I believe this is the only piece we've ever sold signed by James C. Mackley in Mechanicstown, which is now Thurmont, Maryland, Frederick County. Important potter, influenced by Anthony Bacher. Jar marked E. Entler, the only piece we've ever seen marked that, attributed to West Virginia. This came in as an addendum. Look at this great Redware tea canister. Pennsylvania with decorated lid, and actually has a note of provenance referring to it as a tea caddy. So Brenda Hornsby-Hindle in the Mesda Journal wrote an article documenting the work of free African-American potter Abraham Spencer, or Abe Spencer, who worked in Newmarket, Virginia, as well as Strasburg, Virginia. So in the Rice and Stout book of 1929, the Bell family of potters, they talk about Spencer's work and say that the pieces with the A's on them were made by Abe Spencer. So this is one of a very small number of pieces to have surfaced, which have very strong attribution, both from Hindle's work as well as Gene Comstock's book on Shenandoah pottery and Rice and Stout, to be attributable to this very important pottery. A lot of his legacy is documented in Rice and Stout, and this piece we attribute to his work in Newmarket, Virginia. But it's a really cool example and a great opportunity to own something made by Abe Spencer. We also have some other really nice examples of redware. And then just to finish things, great incised New York State urn with flowering urn decoration. It's awesome when you have a piece that almost mimics, the decoration almost mimics the object itself. And this is so crisp. It's really sgraffito technique, where they actually applied the cobalt and then incised out of it. But so one really, really cool decoration. Beautiful vessel. Some great stoneware. So John Young and Company, so it's John Young and Shem Thomas, they brought the New York State stoneware style down to Harrisburg. This is an important early example of Harrisburg stoneware with beautiful slip trail decoration, slip trail floral. One of the nicest John Youngs that we have handled. Great jug, great Cowden stoneware. We've never seen this maker's stamp before. Maybe somebody has, but I believe it's the first maker stamp for the Miller Pottery in Newport for making stoneware. So it's H. M&T Miller, and H is for Henry, the older brother of Michael and Theophilus Miller. So I believe this is about 1870. M&T Miller pottery is very sought after. It's a cool double-handled jug form, cool floral decoration, real important discovery. McCoy with a face. This is Manhattan stoneware. Later, using that New York State stoneware style, the nice face. It's early Boston with an impressed fish. Jonathan Fenton with a fish. This is Manhattan with an incised bird. Another example with an incised bird. And I'm gonna finish with this crock. So it's fun, Huntington, Long Island piece. There's what's called epitaph crocks with inscriptions on it. This one says, "Look within," and it's almost a self-reflexive statement that not only do you look within the crock, but maybe look within yourself as well. It's a very fun example. But thank you guys all for journeying with me through the Crocker Farm Gallery. Honestly, we would love to see you down here in person sometime to preview our auction. But visit us online as well. Look at our whole catalog. Again, bidding runs through November 10th, 2023 for items selling for under $5,000, and then closes in a phone bid session as well. But thank you all so much, and enjoy the auction.